All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, the college football edition of Unqualified Analysis, where I will be hitting on Monday Night Football. Sorry about that again, forgot last week. This is the latest start time that I've had in quite some time, folks. This is probably going to run me right up to bedtime, folks. So, yeah, with that said, no need to waste a whole lot of time. I'm your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA down there in the bottom right-hand corner. Not a link because I'm lazy, but yeah, that link is down in the description. All that sort of good stuff. Either way, we're past all that. Let's crack into this thing in the interest of getting this done in a reasonable amount of time. So, starting off with Monday Night Football to wrap things up on the NFL front of things, the Dolphins went on the road to the Los Angeles Rams, and they get the win, 23-15. I lost even more money than I already have. It has been an unbelievably bad season on the gambling front. It is what it is, folks. It simply is what it is. We're going to be better this week. We're going to be better this week. I just put in the rest, well, really all of my bets. None of the lines changed since Tuesday, so I was good to cash in. Well, not cash in, but invest in the lines that I put out there on Tuesday. Got 5 more for you to add to that. But yeah, so tune in for that if you want to lose money based on recent trends here. But Dolphins get the win, 23-15. Now I'm a man of honor, so I'll preface it by saying that I am a man of honor. I'm a man of my word. So I'm sticking with the Rams -4.5 pick versus the Patriots. However, after this game, I do hate that. I do hate it, and I wish I hadn't have said it, but we're here now. That was with the expectation that the Rams were going to take care of business on Monday night, and lo and behold, they didn't, and it wasn't even really due to the fact that Tua beat him, because Tua didn't really have a great game in his own right. Put his head right on someone's knee for a tackle on an interception that he threw. So, hey, love to see that. Didn't learn a damn thing, and he's probably just going to get another concussion here at some point, I would imagine. Hope not, but is what it is there. That's the worrying thing, though, is that he didn't have a great game and the Rams still lost. They were at home, and I get it. The Rams' home field advantage is tenuous at best, given that, LA is a destination city. Not that Miami is doing too bad in its own right on that front, but, Miami Dolphins fans that don't live in Miami, LA is a bit of a destination city. The local fan base is about as fair weather as they come, I suppose. So, a 4-4 team. Yes, you have won a Super Bowl. So you've done more than the Chargers by about a mile, but still, what have you done for me lately? There's other stuff to do in LA, so not a fantastic home field advantage, but still, home field advantage, team traveling across the country to come on and play you, and you just lay an egg on Monday Night Football. Not great. Not great for the Los Angeles Rams. Dolphins, listen, good win. Good win on Monday night. No complaints there. However, they are 3-6 in a division that they can beat up on. Let's not get it twisted here. The Jets stink. They're worse than the Dolphins right now, especially the Dolphins with Tua. Then you're talking about the Patriots, who are one of the worst teams in the league. So there's opportunities there. However, at 3-6, you're gonna have to win a few more games for me to take you seriously. Solid win. But the main takeaway coming out of this is the Rams a little bit scared for them right now. Just a wee bit scared for them. Offensive line, you just hope it continues to get healthier. You had some guys come off of IR and slot right into the starting lineup. You hope they kind of round into form here as the season goes on. I'm not giving up on the Rams just yet. They're in a division where they're only game and a half back, 2 games back at this point. They're still very much in this thing, and I still think they have some pieces in place to where they could get this job done. However, not great right now, and I really wish I hadn't have bet on them at -4.5. If you haven't put that one in yet, I'm a man of my word, so I stuck with it. But boy, oh boy, I would not recommend that anymore because I don't really trust this Rams team right now. I'm not giving up on them totally, but I do not trust them. That being said, we're done. Done with that. NFL, put a bow on it. We are done with it. Okay, so getting into the college football of it all, Week 11 coming right at you, and we got some teams that are, well, really just one team that's starting to separate, and we're just getting all sorts of parity, I suppose you could call it, back behind them. So we'll start off with the biggest games first. So we had a couple top 5 teams go down. Ho-hum, another week, 2 top 5 teams lose again. What else is new? That's just been kind of the MO for this season. It's been an insane season with a whole lot of very evenly spread talent across the board. But, you know, let's start with... fine. I'll start with Georgia going on the road to Ole Miss. So... this is a game I chose not to bet on it because, one, I do have a little bit, well, more than a little bit of a bias against Ole Miss being a Mississippi State fan. So that's out there. Hard to think clearly when you got that bias going on. But more than anything, Georgia's a team that's shown an ability to turn it on against really good teams like Texas, for instance, a couple weeks back. So I thought, hey, maybe it's a close line, but maybe Georgia ultimately goes on the road and just dominates this one. So I didn't know. I didn't have a great feel on it. I'll tell you what, Ole Miss at home with a hell of an opportunity to get themselves back in that conversation for a playoff berth, which they are very much in now, get a big-time win, and they dominate. They don't just get a win, they dominate. Georgia scored a touchdown early, made it look like they were going to, make this thing into a blowout with like we thought it might be. It's the last touchdown they scored in the entire game. The only points they scored for the rest of the game was 3 points in the third quarter. Ole Miss got the win 28-10. I'm real bad about just starting to talk about the breakdown of scoring by quarter without even saying the final score. My bad, folks. But yeah, that's kind of what this game was. I mean, Ole Miss ultimately retook the lead by the end of the first quarter, and then they just never looked back from there. It wasn't really pretty from there on out. You're still facing a really good Georgia defense, even if you are at home. But they just pulled away. 18-3. Outscored them in the final 3 quarters of the game, and that's all she wrote. That's all you really need at that point to get a dominant win down the stretch. Jackson Dart, not insane, not super spectacular, no 500-yard performance like he had against Arkansas, but solid enough, didn't shoot the team in the foot, and just slowly ground them into dust. And Ole Miss right now, if they win out from here, and I got to see what's left on the schedule, I know one game for sure, but okay, we got Florida this coming week, and then Mississippi State. So you should win both of those games. If Ole Miss wins out, they're in the college football playoff. There's no way around it. A 2-loss SEC team with the resume that they have is in the college football playoff at this point. They've done the hard work. It's just a matter of taking care of business down the stretch. Now, do they actually do it? That's been an issue for them really throughout the course of the season, especially in the 2 losses, both of which should not have happened. I mean, they led the entire game against LSU, and Kentucky, who the hell even knows what happened there? It just all fell apart for a week for whatever reason. If they take care of business, not a guarantee, but if they take care of business, they're in the college football playoff. 10-2 with the resume they've got. I guess an outside chance of going to the SEC title game at this point, maybe. I don't really know on that front. But they've put themselves in the best position possible to this point in the season. Well, not best position possible, but with the losses they have sustained. Get off my screen! What are you doing, Bit Defender? Get out of here! Scram, loser! What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Right in the middle of my recording, too. I completely lost my train of thought, quite frankly. But, Ole Miss at 8-2. They win their last 2, which they should. They are in the college football playoff. Georgia, though, on the other side of things, they got a huge game coming up this week versus Tennessee. And they get them at home, too, which is huge for them. If they win against Tennessee, they end off the season with UMass and Georgia Tech. So you're probably good to go if you win this week. You have got to win this week, though, because 9-3, I don't think gets you in the playoff. even in a year where it just seems like there's so much parity across the board, that parity's working against them in this case. It's not a lack of quality. It's just parity and a lack of top-end quality, I guess you could call it. There's no one great team this year. Even Oregon, that's been clearly the best team in the nation so far, has shown some flaws here and there, hasn't looked fantastic all the way throughout the season, and hasn't exactly been challenged after that Ohio State game. We'll see if that changes, but for right now, that's the reality. With the exception of that, I mean, there's not really one fantastic team, but it's very evenly spread. There are a lot of good teams, no great teams. That's why this season's been so spectacular, because you don't know what's going to happen on a week-in, week-out basis. Not been profitable, but it has been a fun season so far. So Georgia, it's not the end of the world in this game. I would like to point out it's a consistent issue for them. The offense looked terrible again. Mike Bobo is gonna have to get the hell out of town after this season, I would imagine. Carson Beck went from the number one QB on all big boards to, I mean, plummeting down big boards at this point. Just quarterback rankings. I think he's like the sixth quarterback, at least going into Saturday. He was the sixth quarterback. Maybe that's even gone farther down. I bet he's not very happy that he stayed another year in college. He probably would have gotten drafted higher last year than he will be in this coming season. So that's not been great. With all the talent that they have on offense, there's no excuse for them to be as clunky and inconsistent, just downright bad as they are. Defensively, they're still solid, but the offense gives them no hope whatsoever, and this isn't a vintage, like, great national championship winning Georgia defense right now. It's a really good defense. For anyone else, it'd be a fantastic defense, but by Georgia standards, it's just not quite up to that insane level that they've already set for themselves. So Georgia is not out of this by any means. Make no mistake about it. They're still number 12 in the latest college football playoff, which I should actually pull that up, by the way. So they're not out of this. If they win this next week, they're right. They're still very much in business to go to the college football playoff. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily believe in them in the long run to get hot at the right time and go on a championship run here. I just don't. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at this moment. Now we'll see. Maybe they kind of round into form down the stretch and they change my mind on that. But as of right now, I don't see them really making a whole lot of waves when the playoff does roll around. That being said, okay, I've got the playoff rankings pulled up, so keep that in the back pocket for later. We should probably move on to the next one. Moral of the story here on this one, just to put a bow on it, neither of these teams are out of it. And if they both win out, they're still in. I mean, Georgia is still in. Ole Miss is almost a shoo-in at this point if they win out for the rest of their schedule, I would imagine. But keeping it moving from there, another big-time top 5 upset this past week. Miami goes on the road to Georgia Tech, and finally they find themselves in a hole that the ACC just can't dig them out of. And this time they were down late. Down 23-28, in fact, which ended up being the final score with Georgia Tech getting the win. Down 23-28, deep in their own territory. Cam Ward gets strip sack fumbled, turns the ball over. Georgia Tech just kneels it out, essentially. I think they get a first down, and then they kneel it out from there. Miami goes down. First loss on the schedule. They are 9-1 at this point. And honestly, with the way Miami has played, and I think it does matter that they have Cam Ward and they have that U on their helmet. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I know it is a factor in that room when they're deciding who gets these playoff spots. And whether they say it out loud or not, it does factor in. But at the same time, with one loss, they're going to have to win out, because assuming that they get all the way to the ACC championship game, which is a fair assumption at this point. I think they still got the inside track, and I believe they're still favored to win the conference. If they get there and they lose, though, 2-loss ACC team is not making it to the college football playoff, especially when there's so many quality teams in the SEC right now with, hey, more losses, but at that point it would be a 2-loss ACC non-champion, went to the ACC championship game, but non-champion, versus a 2-loss SEC team with a much better resume. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't matter that they have that brand and they have that quarterback, but I think it'll be outweighed by other factors in that case when you're pairing them up against an SEC team that also has 2 losses, also did not win their conference, and also has a better resume overall. There's just not really a great argument for that. So at this point, Miami's backed themselves into a corner. If they'd have gotten all the way to the ACC championship game undefeated, they're probably a shoe-in to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, at this point, you're going to have to win out. ACC is a one-bid league. With Miami's loss, the ACC is a one-bid league. It's only going to be the conference champion, and that is it. So it's basically down to SMU and Miami to go to the playoff out of the ACC, unless something drastic happens and SMU catches on fire down the stretch, or they both catch on fire down the stretch. Even then, comparing a 2-loss ACC non-conference champion to a 2-loss team in even the Big Ten, if Indiana loses that one game against Ohio State, ultimately might be enough to drop them out in their own right. But I still think you put Indiana in over a 2-loss ACC team, and I'm not sure you would put Indiana in at that point. And that's just kind of how down I am on the ACC as a whole. One big league. That's the main story coming out of this. Credit to Georgia Tech for a win. Good job that the coaching staff has done there since they have arrived. But yeah, this is it's going to get interesting in the ACC. It should be a dogfight down the stretch because at this point they should all know what the situation is and where they stand when it comes to making it to the postseason. So pinning that for now, but obviously keeping an eye on it down the stretch. So Florida decided to keep Billy Napier around, or at the very least commit to him through the stretch run of this season. And the team responded by going on the road to Texas and just getting run out of the building. 49-17 was the final score. Texas gets the win. I believe Quinn Ewers had a career high for passing touchdowns with 5. He threw for 333 on just 27 attempts. Texas was just doing everything they wanted. They jumped out to a 35-0 lead at halftime, and they didn't have to really do anything in the second half. Just utter domination. Florida, we'll see if they reconsider that decision to keep Billy Napier around whenever they get to that point. I just started going chronologically from where I was there. So let's just double back, talk about Maryland at Oregon. Oregon got the win, 39-18. Nothing really to write home about. Not a spectacular day from Dylan Gabriel or really anyone on the offense, but still, 3 touchdowns. Sure, 5.4 yards per attempt, but 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, didn't turn the ball over once. That'll do it. That's pretty much all you need, and especially when you talk about the defense doing what they did. I mean, only 2 sacks, but you take what you get. 39-18. They did still beat the hell out of them. No need to worry about that one, really. That's just kind of par for the course as far as the result goes. Ohio State beat Purdue 45-0. Again, nothing really to write home about on that one. However, Gus Johnson, I don't know what's up. I don't know if he has a personal vendetta against Ohio State, or if he's just listening to too much outside criticism and just decided, I'm going to tone it down, just being one of those cool announcers. But he showed zero enthusiasm on multiple occasions for Ohio State touchdowns, especially one that was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. I believe it was Jack Sawyer got a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and he just basically was like, well, Purdue drops back, they fumble the ball, Ohio State picks it up, and Ohio State scores 33-0. And that was the whole call. That pretty much is exactly what it sounded like. I don't know what's going on with Gus Johnson. Maybe he needs to work more night games. I don't know. Got to get that figured out, though, because Ohio State's back on Big Noon Kickoff. I think Gus Johnson might be tired of him, but suck it up, Buttercup. This is what we pay the big bucks for. And, hey, still be yourself. Just maybe tone it down from the peaks a little bit, but just be yourself, man. Don't worry about it too much. Just be yourself on that. Outside of that, don't need to dwell on that one. Penn State took care of business. They win 35-6 over Washington. Still top 5 team in these playoff rankings, very much alive, and almost at this point an inside track to make the playoff, unless something catastrophic happens down the stretch for them. Tennessee beat Mississippi State. Nico got a concussion. Still uncertainty about his status for this week, although I think he might have already been ruled out, honestly. But still, yeah. What do you want me to say, man? We suck. Indiana had to eke one out against Michigan. 20-15 was the final score in this one. Not pretty, but you get the 10 wins in 10 games. You'll take that if you're Indiana. Just more so underscores that Indiana, at the very least, they're going to have to lose very close to Ohio State. It's going to have to come right down to the wire if they do lose. It cannot be a dominating Ohio State win in that game, because if Ohio State dominates them, and that is Indiana's only loss on the schedule, they do not go to the Big Ten championship in that scenario with the head-to-head loss to Ohio State. I don't think Indiana makes the playoffs. With that one loss in the resume, where they really only played one very good team in Ohio State and got run off the field, I don't know if that resume beats out some of the other resumes that we still got out there. So that game, Ohio State, it is hard to understate just how monumental that is for just the future of this program from a playoff contention perspective. Short-term future. We're just talking about this year. Weird way to phrase that, but yeah, the coming weeks, I think it does come up this week, that Indiana-Ohio State game. Monumental for Indiana. Monumental. Hard to understate how monumental it is. BYU, just by the skin of their teeth, eked this one out on the road. The Holy War has been won by the team in Provo. That is BYU, 22-21. They have to get a walk-off field goal to do it. Score 9 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to do it as well. But I'll be goddamned if they didn't go out and do it. And credit to them. They continue winning. But I am fairly certain the Big 12 is going to be a one-bid league as well. I think you're going to get a bunch of teams from the SEC and the Big 10. You're going to get one automatic qualifier from the G5. Still stupid, but we move on from there. And then you're going to get one bid from the ACC. That's the makeup of the playoff. Probably how it should be if you're ranking it as the 12 best teams, which they're not. They're including automatic qualifiers. But again, besides the point, it's how it should be. But hey, you better get used to it, because this is probably how the playoff format is going to go from here on out, especially with the SEC and the Big Ten exerting as much power and influence as they do, because they can always just take their ball and go home. They know what they've got in their conferences and the teams that are in their conferences. Whew, feels good to be Mississippi State in the SEC. I'll tell you what, could be a whole lot worse. You could be Mississippi State in the Big 12 right now, or the ACC for that matter. But yeah, BYU, just keep winning, man. Just keep on winning. Utah makes me sad. I don't even really want to talk about them. Florida State is god-awful. They might be worse than Mississippi State, and that's a tough thing to do. Notre Dame beats them on the road 52-3. Utter domination. No need to lord over Florida State's grave, but they were doomed. They were doomed from the moment that 3-2-1 Knoll didn't eat the dog shit. That's all I got to say about that. Should have eaten the dog shit, man. None of this would have happened. Alabama went on the road to LSU. I believe College Game Day was here. You saw that touching tribute to Ben in the pregame. And with zero sanctimony whatsoever, zero scruples, Alabama that is, just walked into Baton Rouge, night game, packed house. Well, I'm sure over 100,000 people were there. Big time night game, and just ran them out of their own stadium. 42-13, the final score. Alabama just dominated this one from start to finish. Jumped out to a 14-3 lead, took a 21-6 lead into halftime, and outscored LSU 21-7 in the second half. Never felt close at any point in this one. Alabama just controlled it from start to finish. Jalen Milroe, I believe, ended up with 4 touchdowns, all of them on the ground. He is spectacular. Not exactly the model passer that you would be asking for, but I'll tell you what, man. You score 4 touchdowns on the ground, rush for 15.4 yards per carry, 72 on the long, by the way. And you don't turn the ball over in the process, do whatever you want, man. Just, hey, we can win with that. That's all I'm saying. We can win with that. 312 yards for Alabama on the ground, 6.8 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns, by the way. They scored 2 other rushing touchdowns outside of Jalen Milroe. Now, it does bear saying that none of the running backs actually had great days in this one. Jam Miller went 13 carries for 38 yards. Justice Haynes went 8 carries for 23 yards. Richard Young, 6 carries for 27 yards and a touchdown. So, hey, at the very least, you got that. That being said, 6.8 yards and 6 touchdowns for 312 yards as a team. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I think that kind of speaks for itself. So, yeah, this Alabama team, they're very much not out of it either. Now, the Auburn game, always a bit of a trip-up spot for them, but you got Mercer, obviously. You're at Oklahoma, and then you finish off the season with Auburn. You should win each of those next 3. If chalk holds, you should win all 3 of those. Then from there, 10-2 Alabama team, you're probably in the playoffs. I don't know what the tiebreaker scenarios are, but I don't think you're necessarily out of it for the SEC championship as well. Now, if you're going to the SEC championship, because you catch a 3rd loss, you're probably out of this thing. But yeah, I mean, Alabama, if they win out in the regular season and they don't go to the conference championship, they're probably going to make the playoff with what they've got on the resume. That's just the nature of playing the SEC and coming out of it with only 2 losses. You're just going to be higher considered when it comes to playoff contention than some of these other teams with better records and worse resumes. LSU, 3 losses. Pretty safe to say they're out of it. Brian Kelly, I'm not going to definitively say that his days are numbered in LSU, but there is a bit of an inevitability to it that just feels palpable. When it comes to Brian Kelly parting ways with LSU, I have a feeling. I'd say I'm about like 60-40, call it 65-35, sure that Brian Kelly's not going to be at LSU next year. And that's based off zero inside information. That's just going solely off vibes and how they performed this year. I don't think, and also just knowing a good couple LSU fans along the way, the fans aren't happy. I don't think the administration is probably real happy. I think they're pretty disappointed with how this season, and last season for that matter, has gone. I think the more you go away from it, the more you look back at the Jaden Daniels season last year and think, wow, if we'd have just had a semblance of a good defense, we would have won a bunch of games, been in the college football playoff, and probably won if you just had an average defense. But it was terrible, so you lose 3 games, and with the Heisman Trophy winner, you don't even make the playoffs or the SEC title game for that matter. I just feel like Brian Kelly's days might be coming to a close there at LSU. Again, no inside knowledge, just based solely off the vibes. Doesn't feel good for LSU right now, or for Brian Kelly really specifically. They are, I would say, definitively out of the playoff race at this point. Just watch that job situation. Don't be shocked if Lane Kiffin ends up at LSU and not Florida this offseason. That's my hot take coming out of this. Don't be shocked. And remember who told you. It was this boy right here. Now, is that a bit of wish casting that Lane Kiffin leaves and takes all the good players he's recruited with him? One could accuse me of that. But you can't lie. It's plausible. It is absolutely plausible. So, Bears watching. Boise State, stays with that one loss. They get the win. Wasn't pretty, but they get the win 28-21. Ashton Genty just falling further out of the Heisman race. He had a meager 34 carries for 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. At some point, they got to start thinking about this kid's future, man. 34 carries is a lot for a college kid. Besides the point, but yeah, should be a more Heisman consideration, but you're already a running back and you're at the G5 level. You basically just got to break all of Barry's records in order to be considered for the Heisman. And essentially, you kind of just got to be well, I'm not even going to say that. That might be one of the dumbest things I've ever thought. He's probably going to be a finalist. I don't think he wins it, though. Unless he starts going insane down the stretch, I don't really think he wins it. But hey, Boise State keeps on winning. Iowa State did not. They lost to Kansas 45-36. Rocco Beck threw for 383, 3 touchdowns, and it just didn't matter. Kansas's offense is going wild here recently. They're going wild on you right now, brother. And Jalen Daniels was not efficient, don't get me wrong, but 295 on 24 attempts, that's slinging the pill right there. And in addition to that, didn't turn the ball over once. He gets 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, rushes for another touchdown as well. So over 350 total yards, 12.3 yards per attempt on the passing. He was very good in this game, despite only going 12 for 24 passing the ball. When you run the ball for 3 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry, 237 yards on the game, though, that's where this thing is won and lost. And the fact that Iowa State gave up 500 total yards, over 500 total yards of offense with 0 turnovers, kind of speaks to the concerns about this receiving core. It's not good right now, or this Iowa State defense. Excuse me. The receiving core is fine enough. Rocco Beck seems to be getting the ball to him fair enough, but yeah, that Iowa State obviously with 2 losses, they are all the way out of playoff contention. Kansas, those hopes really never got off the ground this season, but you feel bad for Iowa State at this point, but you dug this hole yourself. It is what it is. You can still finish 10-2, get a solid enough bowl outside of the playoffs, but as far as contention is concerned, it's just not in the cards this year, my friends. Just not in the cards. As far as Kansas is concerned, though, they're 3-6. They're not a very good football team, but they're playing really good football right now. And they're the type of team, now we got to check what they're going to do down the stretch here, but with the slate that they have, they play BYU, they play Colorado, and then they play Baylor. Those first 2 that I mentioned are the ones that we should be focusing on because Kansas playing as good of football as they're playing, they have a chance to play spoiler in a big-time way here over the next 2 weeks. If they only win one of those 2 games, it probably knocks someone out of the college football playoff. Either way, it's a 1-bid league. They're both just going to have to win out, talking about BYU and Colorado. But if they win one of those 2, it's going to make the Big 12 title race very interesting. If they win 2 of 2, I mean, that's just classic Big 12 football. But man, it's interesting right now. It is very interesting watching this Kansas football team, and they could make some real Big 12 magic down the stretch here. They're 3-6. They are not dead last because it's an enormous conference at this point, and Oklahoma State is a god-awful football team. But I'll tell you what, man, they're fighting. They are fighting at the moment. They could seriously, hey, they've still got bowl eligibility to play for. If they win out, they still go to a bowl game. So watch out for this Kansas Jayhawks team, man. They're out of it. Don't get me wrong, but they could still make some waves and cause some chaos down the stretch here to round out what's been an absolutely insane season. Okay, so Virginia beat Pittsburgh. Quite a fall from grace for Pittsburgh, losing to SMU and Virginia in back-to-back weeks. But, yeah, they've just kind of been exposed. They've faced off against a pretty lackluster slate of games. One of the worst strengths of schedule to start the season through 7 games. And we're just seeing it now. Pittsburgh, your dark horse candidacy is finished. I apologize to you. Colorado went on the road and took care of business versus Texas Tech, 41-27. Cashed the over for us. Needed that big time. No word on Nico Iamaleava yet. I just got a little bit of a notification on my phone about that. But back to the task at hand here. Colorado, they got outscored 13-0 initially in the first quarter. This thing was dicey, but ultimately come back, kind of dominate the rest of the way, and they get the win. So they're 7-2, 5-1 in the Big 12, and right now, at this very moment, Colorado, with Deion Sanders as the head coach, with Shedeur Sanders as the quarterback, with Travis Hunter should be the Heisman frontrunner right now, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of debate about that, control their destiny for the college football playoff, and down the stretch they face off against Utah at home, Kansas on the road, and then Oklahoma State at home to end off the season. They should go 3-0 in that stretch, and if they go 3-0 in that stretch, they'll go to the Big 12 title. That's their ticket to the college football playoff right now. They control their destiny to get wherever they want to get right now. If they win out, they're going to the college football playoff by default. This is an interesting look for Colorado right now, and all the credit in the world to them. I did not think they were going to be nearly as good as they have turned out this year. And hey, you can count me as one of the doubters, Dion. I doubted you, and I still may doubt you after this season. Don't get it twisted. If you stay at Colorado, you got a hell of a rebuild job on your hands this offseason, man. Though there will be some opportunities to jump ship. We'll see if anyone takes the bait on that, but we'll check back in on that one. But for this season, hey, man, you've proven me wrong for sure. Colorado's a really good football team. Are they an at-large bid in the playoff? No. Could they make some waves and kick it in down the stretch and make the playoff? Boy, oh boy, we're about to see, and I'm excited to watch them do it. Hey, chaos can happen, especially in the Big 12. Who would have thought at this point in the season, though, Colorado would not only be bowl eligible, let alone competing for the Big 12 title, controlling their own destiny to get to the Big 12 title. All the credit in the world to them. They've done a really good job this season. We'll see what happens after this season, but again, put a pin in that for now. Washington State, still sneaky 8-1. Did not realize that, but 49-28, well, didn't realize that before last week. We realized that last week, but still, they just keep chugging along. They're 49-28, they get the win over Utah State. Strength of schedule, we don't need to worry about the strength of schedule right now. Let's keep all eyes forward, eyes on our own work here. But hey, 8-1, man, they're doing pretty good. They're doing pretty good right now. They'd have to be an at-large bid, so probably not in the cards for them there. But still, hey, all the credit in the world to Washington State. They've been very good this year. They've been very, very good this year, and they've been rewarded with a ranking for that. Clemson got the win over Virginia Tech. Wasn't pretty, but 24-14. I'm not going to continue beating a dead horse with Clemson, man. We all know the issues. We know the avenues to fix those issues. Just a matter of whether Dabo Swinney wants to pull the trigger and actually start using the resources that all, and I mean all, of his competitors are using. Virginia Tech, man, what a disappointment this season that they have been. From the get-go with Vanderbilt, that loss there in week 1, just not great for Virginia Tech. This is a sad end to the ACC if this is in fact the last season that it is played. Missouri, I mean, pulled one. It was lodged so far up their ass. I'm surprised they were able to reach up there, grab it, and pull it out, man, without just degloving themselves, essentially. I have no idea how Missouri won this game. They needed a last-second touchdown, a scoop-and-score touchdown to go ahead and win versus Oklahoma. This game was headed to overtime, and then all of a sudden, Missouri just gets one of the luckiest plays of all time. They win in a wild fourth quarter, 20-14. The score was in the fourth quarter. The score entering the fourth quarter was 10-9 Missouri was up 10-9, and then all of a sudden pandemonium ensues. Great fourth quarter, make no mistake about it. Did you know Drew Pine is at Missouri? He started in this game, went 14 of 27 with 3 touchdowns. So Drew Pine, I'm happy to report, still Drew Pine. So that's good. That's good to know. If any of us had forgotten, I forgot he was still in college football, quite frankly, let alone at the University of Missouri. Now you know. Now you know. Missouri stinks. Oklahoma stinks worse, though, I suppose. And you know what? Contrary to what Eli Drinkwitz said after this game, saying, yeah, we're still in the playoff hunt. No, you're not. No, you're not. You would be the only 2-loss SEC team that I would bump out of the playoff. Not only because of how you look, but because of really just record and resume. They've not had a very strong schedule, and the strongest games that have been on the schedule, they've lost and lost emphatically. And I think they're going to lose another one. Little bit of a preview for the picks segment. They're going on the road to South Carolina, and I'm here to tell you that they are going to lose that game. Mark my words, bookmark it if you want to. They are going to lose that game. So if you had any, sneaking inkling on where I'm leaning in that game and where I'm ultimately placing money, there you got a little sneak preview on what's to come. Outside of that, Army won against North Texas 14-3. Really, this whole game was won coming out of the half in the third quarter. And it may not seem like that because Army didn't score again after the first quarter until the fourth quarter. But North Texas comes out of the halftime. They get the ball first. Quick stop from Army. They get the ball back, that being Army. Army goes on, I believe, a 24-play, 90-some yard drive, just a shade under 14 minutes, bleeds into the fourth quarter, and then to start off the fourth quarter, they run it in for a touchdown, and signed, sealed, delivered. That game's over. I don't even care what the score is at that point. Army got the win 14-3. Just man football. 24 plays, 24 runs, I'm pretty sure. Just grown man football, and you just love to see it. You just love to see it. Army, 9-0, still with a date against Notre Dame left on the schedule. Doesn't get any better than this, folks. Doesn't get any better than this. Okay, that's it for the top 25. Let's kind of make our rounds around the Power 4, see what we missed. Cal beat Wake Forest. Filed in under the who cares category. Boston College beat Syracuse. Apparently Fran Brown just doesn't shower after they lose a game. Soap is for winners, I believe, is the main quote that sticks out on that one. Soap is for everyone, Fran. Wash your dirty ass, please. I get it, you're 6-3. You haven't lost a whole lot of games this year. But please, Fran, I speak for everyone that's in your life. Wash your nasty ass, man. Come on. Outside of that, yeah, I hope he's showered by this point. They did lose this game, 37-31. Boston College, 5-4. Scrappy, but not great in Butt-Chin Bill O'Brien's first year. Hey, Kai Robichaux, though, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Shout out to you. But yeah, not very noteworthy. Duke improved to 7-3. They get the win, 29-19 over NC State, who is also bad. Their quarterback retired this year. That's how things are going with NC State. Their quarterback, who transferred in, that was supposed to bring him to dark horse playoff candidacy, retired. So that's how things are going in Raleigh, North Carolina at the moment. Big 12, what are we doing on the Big 12? Arizona State, sneaky 7-2 right now. They get the win 35-31 over UCF. Not pretty, but did they cover? Check. And that's all we cared about because we cashed, one of the wins this week. We cashed on this one. But 7-2, they're big underdogs on the road against Kansas State this week. Hey, little preview. I like them. Man. I'm not a huge underdog bettor, but hey, when the feeling just calls, sometimes you got to answer. And hey, little preview, just a little preview here, a little taste of what's to come. TCU got the win over Oklahoma State, who is just an abomination of a football team. Mike Gundy, just an awful job coaching this year, and now that probably means they're going to go like 12-1 next year and go all the way to the college football playoff. But this year, Oklahoma State is an abomination of a football team. I apologize. If you or a loved one has been exposed to Oklahoma State football over the course of this season, you may be entitled to compensation. That's how I feel right now. Oklahoma State's just a terrible football team. TCU's not fantastic, but Oklahoma State's an abomination. An abomination. They were down 24-0 at halftime. Just get out of my sight. You disgust me. Just disgust me. Okay, Big Ten. Anything we missed in the Big Ten? UCLA beat Iowa. Just don the clown wigs. We're a laughing stock right now on the bets at the moment, but that's besides the point, I guess. Iowa goes on the road. They lose. UCLA 4-5. They're kind of on a little bit of a heater. 3 straight wins after the just abysmal start. They're not doing bad right now. They're not doing bad at all. Now, Deshaun Foster gonna probably have to do some media training. Add that into the weekly schedule. Hopefully next year's Big Ten Media Day is not as abjectly awkward and uncomfortable as this past one. But hey, not doing a bad job here in year one with UCLA. I think 4 wins already at a level to where I did not think that they would be at this point in the season. I thought they'd maybe have 1 win by this point in the schedule, and they're, hey, solidly slightly below average. And that's not bad for year one in this UCLA program with where Deshaun Foster took over. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Outside of that, Rutgers beat Minnesota. The bottom middle, the middle to bottom of the Big Ten, it's just not pretty. It's just simply not pretty. I mean, at the very least, Iowa can score some points this year because they got a stud running back in Caleb Johnson. But it's just a gross brand of football at the bottom of the Big Ten, man. Just stay away from that neighborhood. It's not good. It's not a good neighborhood. You shouldn't feel safe when you're in it. Big Ten, that's it for that. What do we got left? We got the SEC. And that'll round us out at this point. So, yeah. Only real notable one here, South Carolina went on the road and just dominated Vanderbilt 28-7. Don't look now, man, but Lenora Sellers in this game, 14 of 20 for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. Starting to play some really, really good football in his first year starting, and he's still, I think, at least got another year of eligibility. I think he might have redshirted last year. I can't remember if he's a redshirt freshman or a true freshman. Either way, they've still got him for more time after this season. South Carolina is a really damn good football team right now. They're not going to get in the playoffs, but by the time it's all said and done, they're probably going to be better than 1 or 2 of those teams that do make the playoff. They are really good this year. Really, really good. Shane Beamer's done a hell of a job there coaching this team up. And they've got a chance to get another ranked somehow win this upcoming week against Missouri. Vanderbilt, hey, you're bowl eligible, man. You should just be happy. Just be happy. Enjoy Clark Lee while you got him because you're not going to have him that much longer. So just, hey, savor these moments. Savor these moments. You know, not a great week, but you're 6-4. It's like 4 or 5 more wins than you were expected to get for the entire season. Let's be happy. And I think pretty much the entire fan base for Vanderbilt is in lockstep on that one. Okay, so with that, that's it. We're done for Week 11 recap. Let's take a look forward. Let's pull out the handy-dandy phone. And I got 5 more bets to add. So first and foremost, let me get the extra NFL bets out of the way. So waffled a little bit on the Lions minus 13.5. We're pulling the trigger. We're doing it. Lions minus 13.5. I think they're going to run the Jaguars out of the building. It doesn't look like Trevor Lawrence is going to play once again this week. It's still up in the air for right now, but he's not really practiced at all. So give me the Lions minus 13.5. I think they dominate that game. And Falcons-Broncos, over 44. I'm taking that one as well. I just think anyone can get it when you're talking about the Falcons and the ability to score for both teams. I think the Falcons are going to score some points, and I think the Broncos are going to score some points. I don't necessarily know who wins, but I think they hit the over at 44. So those are the ones I'm adding for the NFL. So shifting gears, back to college. I got 3 to add tonight, but let's just kind of go down the list here and preview some games a little bit, or at the very least give you an idea of what's coming this weekend. Ohio State is at Northwestern, so I guess the Indiana game is next week. My bad on that one. Ohio State is at Northwestern. They're laying 28.5. Lean Ohio State. Northwestern's not very good. Texas is at Arkansas. They're laying 13.5. I actually lean Arkansas in this one. I think this is a sneaky spot for Texas. Arkansas has been up and down, but I think they can hang with Texas for at least a little bit, make this more interesting than maybe people expect. So lean towards Texas in that one. Definitely lean on the over at 57.5 too. I think there's going to be some points scored in that one. Texas's defense scares me enough to where I'm leaning away from that, shying away from that, but hard lean to the 57.5 on the over there. Colorado is an 11.5 point favorite over Utah at home. I lean Colorado, but I just can't. It's so many points. It's so many points with a well-coached Utah team. They're not a good team by any stretch of the imagination, but a well-coached Utah team. It just scares me is all. Carryover from the Pac-12, old Pac-12 rivalry. I don't know, man. I'm staying away. I'm staying away on it. No real lean whatsoever. I'm just staying away. Probably even lean the under on the 45.5 if for no other reason than Utah is not going to score a whole lot of points, I would imagine. Clemson's on the road at Pittsburgh. They're favored by 10, and I don't really trust either of these teams, so I'm staying away from that one. Tulane is at Navy, and Tulane is getting 7 points. They're laying 7 points in this one. Ever so slight lean to Navy, but I don't really have a great feel on that team, so I'm staying away from that one as well. Tulane's a solid football team right now, but 7-point home favorites against a solid, or not home, 7-point road favorites against a solid Navy team. I don't know about that one. I don't know. Alabama is favored by, ESPN actually doesn't even have a line on it, but I think it's like 41.5, something like that. Who cares? Who cares, man? Penn State is favored by 28.5 at Purdue. Lean to Penn State on that one. Purdue's god-awful. Notre Dame is a 23-point favorite hosting Virginia. Slight lean to Notre Dame, but that's a whole lot of points. And Virginia's not terrible. They're just not very good. So staying away from that one. SMU is favored by 19.5 versus Boston College. A lot of points. Man. I almost bet on this one, and then all of a sudden I just thought to myself, I don't know, man. That is a whole lot of points. Almost bet on Louisville at Stanford too, which is the next game. Minus 20.5. It's against Stanford. It's about as hard of a lean as you can get to, but right as I was about to hit enter on the bet, I just thought to myself, man, they're traveling all the way across the country, and they're favored by 20.5. Things can go haywire. I love Louisville and how they're playing right now, but I can't bring myself to do it in this case. Maybe if I was a little short on bets this week, I would add them, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I just can't do it. I'm staying away. So LSU's on the road at Florida. LSU favored by 4.5. Classic. I don't trust either of these teams. Lean LSU because Florida's not very good, but I really don't trust either of these teams, so I'm staying away. Lean the over at 54.5, I suppose. South Carolina is at home versus Missouri, and this line might have moved since I put this in. ESPN's currently listing it as a 13.5 point spread. I got South Carolina at minus 12 in this game, and I'm taking them. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of what we saw when Missouri went on the road to Texas A&M. A lesser environment than College Station, but that is no disrespect to the environment at South Carolina. It is going to be a hostile road environment for Missouri, and they're facing off against a team that's just flat out better than them. I think South Carolina wins, and I think they win big. Give me South Carolina minus 12 if you can still get it. No guarantee there, but if you can still get it, South Carolina minus 12 is the pick for me. Boise State is on the road at San Jose State. They're laying 13.5. That's a lot of points for a road favorite, and one that just beat Nevada by 7 points last week. Staying away from that one. Arizona State is on the road at Kansas State. This is the next bet we are adding. We are taking Arizona State plus 8.5. I think they keep it close. I just don't really believe in Kansas State as a football team. They've been up and down, but they just are so inconsistent. Avery Johnson's not that fantastic as a quarterback, especially not throwing the ball. And I think Arizona State, I think they can pull this thing out. I think they cover those, so I'm taking them a plus 8.5 in this one. Oregon is on the road at Wisconsin, 14-point favorites. I think Oregon covers, but I just don't feel strongly enough about it to lay 14 with Oregon in this one. I think they get the win. I think they go 11-0, but I don't know. I don't have a great feel on this game, so I'm staying away from right now. Tennessee is on the road at Georgia. Big-time matchup. Georgia is favored by 10 in this one. I got to lean Tennessee. I just think they play Georgia's game better than Georgia plays their own game, quite frankly. The Nico situation worries me, but I don't really expect their game to change a whole lot with whoever the backup happens to be for Tennessee. I should know. I watched a whole game with them, with Tennessee last week, playing against Mississippi State and just grind them into a fine powder, but still covered. Still covered, folks. Hey, we're just a covering machine at this point. That's pretty much all we can hang our hat on. I'm leaning Tennessee plus 10. I'm not betting on it because Georgia does have a tendency. The Texas game just sticks out in my mind. I can't let the Texas game go, so I'm staying away from it. But I am leaning Tennessee plus 10. The real lean is on the under at 48.5. I think they're going to hit the under. Not betting on it, but I do think they hit the under on that one. New Mexico State is going on the road to Texas A&M. Texas A&M is laying 39. I'm not betting on this game, but Texas A&M, that's the lean. No pick. Just Texas A&M minus 39. Washington State's on the road at New Mexico. They're favored by 10.5. Lean to Washington State, but I can't bring myself to do it. I just don't know enough about the team to put my hard-earned dollars on it and put your hard-earned dollars down on it as part of this pick segment. So staying away from it. But they keep moving up the rankings. If they keep winning, they'll keep doing that too. Kansas is on the road at BYU. BYU is favored by 2.5. That is a proper amount of respect for Kansas in this one. It's not even really a sneaky spot. It is a glaring spot. Late night slots for them. 10-15 kickoff time. This is just a classic spot for some Big 12 magic. We saw it last week with BYU pulling one straight out their keister, smelling all, still hanging on that thing. This time around, we'll see. Kansas might do it to them. That's one that bears watching, and it's one that bears staying up a little bit later for. Just get a cup of coffee, stay up until 2 a.m. and watch this thing. It's a Saturday. You ain't got nothing to do on Sunday, anyways. So that rounds out the top 25. Let's kind of go around the Power 5 and see what we got there. Anything notable to write home about? Cal's an 8.5-point favorite against Syracuse. I'd slightly lean Syracuse on that one, but just don't feel strongly enough about that one to add it. Outside of that, we got Wake Forest North Carolina. UNC's favored by 11.5. Oof. Staying away from that one. No lean whatsoever. That's two wholly untrustworthy teams. Big 12, Houston is at Arizona. And actually, come to think of it, I thought I added this bet. Yeah, I did. This is actually my third added bet for college football. Houston is plus 1.5. I got that at FanDuel. See if you can still get it by morning time. Seems like all the books are kind of moving to 1 at this point. But I got Houston plus 1.5 on the road at Arizona. Arizona is just a bad football team, and these are just two teams moving in opposite directions. Willie Fritz is starting to get this thing rolling in the right direction. They're 4-5, and Arizona is just a god-awful football team. Give me Houston plus 1.5. Little insurance there on the money line if they lose by 1. But yeah, I just think Houston wins this game, so I'm adding them plus 1.5. That's the final bets. We'll do a little recap once we get through the previews here. Baylor's on the road at West Virginia. Baylor favored by 2.5. No real strong feelings on that game. Cincinnati's at Iowa State. Iowa State is a minus 10-point favorite. I lean Cincinnati. Iowa State is just not inspiring a whole lot of confidence in me right now, especially with the way that defense is playing in a non-complimentary fashion. I don't feel great about that one at the moment. Big Ten. UCLA's on the road at Washington. Washington's a 4-point favorite. UCLA's playing some solid ball right now. And you can get the get-in price for this game is $10. If you're in the Seattle area, why not? Why not? $10. You probably get a parking pass with that as well. I don't know what the parking situation is in Seattle for that one, but why not if you're in the area? Old Pac-12 matchup. It's a miserable one, but hey, probably going to be a close game. Get-in price of $10 for a solid football game. I'd take that if I were in the area. Friday night. What else are you going to be doing on a Friday night? Go watch yourself some UCLA Washington. Slightly into UCLA, though. I think they keep this close, if not win this thing outright. Outside of that, Michigan State's on the road at Illinois. Illinois is favored by 2.5. I don't really trust either of these teams, but I guess lean to Illinois. Nebraska is at USC. USC is laying 9. I was dangerously close to betting Nebraska in this one. It just my distrust for them with their recent stretch of games just kind of outweighs my distrust for USC, I guess. But Nebraska plays Big Ten football, and USC does not like playing Big Ten football. So heavy lean on Nebraska at the +9. I think they keep it close, if not win this thing outright. Don't feel strongly enough to add it, quite frankly. It's a little gassy right now. Rutgers at Maryland. Maryland is laying 5.5. I'm not betting on this one. Call the hotline if you're a non-alumni betting on this game, or non-fan / alumni betting on this game. Outside of that's it for the Big Ten. Anything we're missing in the SEC right now? Anything whatsoever? UL Monroe's at Auburn. Auburn's favored by 24. Just file it under. Who cares? Murray State is at Kentucky. Just a sad matchup, and it's only $1 less than UCLA Washington. That's just not great value. That the get-in price should be $5 for that game. Just putrid. Bad stuff. Outside of that, yeah, we hit them all. So, yeah, I think we're good to go. One last time when we round this thing out, or as we round this thing out. So to recap, we have got Chargers minus 1.5 versus the Bengals on Monday night. Rams minus 4.5 at the Patriots. Cannot stress enough how much I do not trust that pick, but I've already made it and I'm a man of my word, so we're still sticking with it, minus 4.5. South Carolina minus 12 at home versus Missouri. Arizona State plus 8.5 at Kansas State. Falcons, Broncos over 44. Lions minus 13.5 at the Jaguars. And then Houston, University of Houston, not talking about the Texans in this one, plus 1.5 versus Arizona. That's all, folks. We are sticking a fork in this one, and we are calling it good. In just a measly hour and 4 minutes, we made our way through that thing. Fairly painless, fairly painless. With that said, though, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. We do this thing twice a week. NFL on Tuesdays, Monday Night Football, and college football on Thursdays, and that's just how it's going to be from here on out. Follow me on the socials, basically just Twitter at CalebVUA. Hit me up in the DMs if you want to talk to me, or go to the email unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Either way, links to the Twitter and links to, well, just the email address are in the description. Outside of that, wherever you listen to this, just go ahead, subscribe, share with somebody, rate, do all that good stuff. Rate it highly, preferably. A 1-star would just be mean at this point, so don't do it if you have any option. And then, yeah, let's just see if we can grow this thing a little bit. Kind of stagnated for the last 3 years, but hey, we're still hopefully growing this thing a little bit. So I would thank you for doing that. Outside of that, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got no clue what I'm talking about. One thing I learned this week, though, UConn football is 7-3. Did not know they had the capability of winning 7 wins over the course of 2 seasons, let alone in 1. Shout out UConn football, man. Sneaky, not ass. Sneaky, not ass. And on that note, I got to go edit this thing before I got to go Betty bye. I will talk to y'all on Tuesday. Enjoy this weekend of football. May the bets be profitable. Bet the beer money, not the rent money. See y'all Tuesday.